During the Battle of Gaugamela, a single messenger rode frantically across the battlefield. Alexander the Great was in the middle of his legendary charge, seconds away from shattering the Persian Empire. But behind him, Parmenion's left flank was collapsing. Persian cavalry was bleeding through Greek lines. 40,000 men, outnumbered, outflanked, out of time. The messenger's note said one thing: "Come now." Alexander read it, and he made a choice. That choice destroyed Parmenion's reputation for 2,000 years. History called him a coward, a weak general who panicked while Alexander was winning. But something doesn't add up. A man who panics doesn't hold off the finest cavalry in the ancient world. Alone, without reinforcements, for the entire battle. A man who panics doesn't save the very army that history forgot he saved. By the end of this video, you will know the truth about that left flank, and you'll understand exactly why history needed Parmenion to be the villain. The ground is shaking, not from an earthquake, not from thunder, from hooves, thousands of them. Persian and Cappadocian cavalry thundering across the flat plains of Gaugamela at full gallop, aimed directly at the left side of the Macedonian line. The dust they kick up turns the morning sky brown. You can feel it in your chest before you can see it. Parmenion stands in the center of his left flank formation, watching the wall of horses come. He has been here before, left wing. Every major battle Alexander has ever fought. Granicus, Issus, Parmenion has commanded the left. He knows his role: hold the left, keep it steady. Let Alexander do what Alexander does on the right. Buy him the time to deliver the blow that ends the battle. It is a role without glory. It is a role designed to be invisible. Today, October 1st, 331 BC, on a flat plain in what is now northern Iraq, that role is about to become something else entirely. Because what is coming at Parmenion's left flank is not a probing attack. Mazaeus, the Persian commander on their right, has sent everything. Armenians, Cappadocians, Syrians, Mesopotamians, Parthians, in numbers that Parmenion's Thessalian horsemen cannot match. The Macedonian left is going to break. The question is not whether. The question is whether Parmenion can hold long enough for Alexander to finish what he started on the other side of the battlefield. And the answer will determine whether Alexander's charge is the greatest cavalry strike in ancient history, or the last mistake of a king who left his flank unguarded. Philip II of Macedon, Alexander's father, the king who built the most powerful army Greece had ever seen, said this in the last years of his reign. In his entire time as king, he had found only one general he could truly trust. That general was Parmenion. Philip was not a sentimental man. When he said Parmenion was the only one he trusted, it meant something precise. This man's ability was so consistent that Philip would stake his kingdom on it. Parmenion had earned that trust over decades. He defeated the Illyrians in 356 BC, the same year Alexander was born. He negotiated peace with Athens. He commanded the advance force into Asia in 336 BC, preparing the ground for the invasion before Alexander even arrived. He was, in every military sense, the architect of the campaign that Alexander would later take all the credit for. When Alexander crossed into Asia in 334 BC, he was 22 years old with no major battlefield experience. Parmenion was in his late 60s, and yet Alexander received all glory. Parmenion received the left wing. There is a pattern in how ancient sources describe Parmenion. Every time he offers advice, don't attack at Granicus, wait for a better moment, consider the peace offer from Darius, Alexander refuses. History frames Parmenion's advice as evidence of timidity. The young king's boldness contrasted against the old general's hesitation.
Look at the current.
At Granicus, Parmenion advised caution. Alexander attacked anyway and nearly got killed in the first charge. At Issus, Parmenion held the left flank under enormous pressure, while Alexander broke through the center. Before Gaugamela, Parmenion recommended a night attack, recognizing that fighting 300,000 Persians in daylight on open ground was genuinely dangerous. Alexander refused, saying he would not steal a victory. Every time, Parmenion advises caution. Alexander refuses. Alexander wins. Parmenion gets called timid. But there is one question nobody asks. What would have happened to those victories if the left flank had not held? Darius III had chosen the plain of Gaugamela to maximize every Persian advantage. He had the ground leveled, engineers flattening any irregularity that might slow his cavalry or scythed chariots. He deployed between 200,000 and 300,000 men across a frontage so wide that the entire Macedonian army fit within the center of the Persian line. Arrian gives Alexander's force as 7,000 cavalry and 40,000 infantry. Darius had more than 5 men for everyone Alexander commanded. The Persian line stretched 6 kilometers across the plain. At the center, Darius himself, with elite Persian infantry and Greek mercenaries. On the Persian left, Bessus with the Bactrian cavalry. On the Persian right, Mazaeus, with Armenian and Cappadocian cavalry, Albanian horsemen, the combined forces of a dozen subject nations. Mazaeus was directly opposite Parmenion. Alexander's plan was simple. The companion cavalry would drift right, obliquely, drawing the Persian left to follow, stretching the Persian formation until a gap appeared. When the gap opened, Alexander would drive through it straight toward Darius. While Alexander did this, Parmenion would hold the left, against Mazaeus, against whatever Mazaeus threw at him, for however long it took. Nobody asked Parmenion if that was possible. Watch the right side of the battlefield. Alexander begins his drift the moment the battle opens. The companions move right, obliquely, slowly at first, drawing Bessus's cavalry outward.
Steady and
Darius
forward!
orders his scythed chariots forward. The Agrianian infantry and Macedonian archers intercept them, harassing the horses,
Pull them down!
grabbing reins, dragging drivers down.
Hold the line!
The chariots that get through are met by infantry who simply open their ranks, let them pass, and close again.
Hold
The first
formation!
Persian
Push
gambit
the
fails.
advantage!
Alexander is still
They're
drifting
breaking!
right. The
Exploit
Persian
the
left
gaps!
stretches, thins,
Fall
tries
back!
to maintain
Save
contact.
yourselves!
The ground changes. No longer prepared flat surface, but raw terrain that will slow Persian cavalry. The gap forms.
Charge!
Alexander sees it. He turns the companions, and he charges. Now watch the left side, the side nobody puts in the documentaries. The moment Alexander's charge begins, Mazaeus attacks. He does not probe. He sends the full weight of the Persian right. Armenian cavalry, Cappadocian cavalry, Albanian cavalry, Mesopotamian horsemen, all of them at once, directly into Parmenion's Thessalians.
Hold the line!
The Thessalians were outstanding cavalry, arguably equal to Alexander's companions in skill. But they were outnumbered, on flat terrain, with no defensive advantages, against a commander with one objective: crush the left and swing behind the Macedonian center. Arrian reported the left flank of Alexander's army was facing imminent destruction. The Thessalians bent, not immediately broken. Parmenion rode among them, personally directing countercharges, plugging gaps, maintaining cohesion in a formation being hit from multiple directions. Curtius Rufus records that the Persian right flank cavalry, having crushed the front elements, had already begun to encircle the Macedonian left. And then something worse happened. A gap opened in the Macedonian phalanx, not on the left, in the center. Simius's brigade could not follow Alexander's rightward charge because the pressure on the left was too great.
Charge!
The seam appeared. Persian and Indian cavalry from Darius's center drove through it. Parmenion now had enemies in front of him, and enemies behind him. The Persian cavalry that broke through reached the Macedonian baggage camp. They were killing support troops. They found Darius's own mother, Sisygambis, held under Macedonian protection since Issus. She refused to leave with
Tear
them,
it open!
and instead of
Faster!
turning to hit Parmenion's formation
What's
from the
inside?
rear,
Give
which
it
would
to
have
me!
been catastrophic, they began looting.
Smash this
indiscipline.
one!
It
Get away
probably
from
saved
him,
the
that's my
Greek army,
share.
but Parmenion could not see the
Move!
camp from
There's
where
more
he
over
was.
here!
He could only see
Leave nothing
cavalry
behind.
pressing from the front, feel the formation bending, watch men fall. He
Fight
did not know
east
whether
and
the
do not
forces
stop.
behind him would
Bring
turn
the
on his
legions
rear.
here, or we
He
are
sent
finished.
for Alexander.
Go!
The messenger crossed the battlefield carrying a single note. What we know of its contents comes from Curtius Rufus. Parmenion requested help. The left was in danger.
Faster!
Come now.
Keep running!
And
Ride
we know
hard!
Alexander's response. Plutarch records it with the precision of
Tell
words
the
that
general,
were remembered
we
and
attack at
argued
dawn!
about for years. When Alexander received the message, already closing on Darius, he reportedly said,
Look
Parmenion
at you,
must be out of his
groveling
mind,
in the dirt!
or he has
Get
forgotten
up
that
and
one must
reclaim
die
your
with
honor,
glory,
or I'll
not
end
preserve
you
oneself.
myself!
While his left flank was collapsing, while Persian cavalry was behind his lines, while 40,000 of his own men were being ground down, Alexander's response to the man holding his army together was to question his sanity. He did
Faster!
eventually turn.
Drive
When
faster!
Darius fled,
We must escape this
abandoning
place!
his army as he had at Issus, Alexander faced the choice: pursue Darius and potentially end the war, or go back and save Parmenion. Arrian
Charge!
records that Alexander chose to help Parmenion, but by the time he arrived, the crisis had already passed. The Persian cavalry that broke through had been dispersed by the reserve
coming!
phalanx
Run!
while they looted the camp.
Get out of the way!
Mazaeus' assault had exhausted itself against the Thessalian resistance. Parmenion's left was battered, depleted, bloodied. It had not broken. Without Alexander, without reinforcements, without anyone coming. You are standing in Parmenion's formation on the Macedonian left. The plain of Gaugamela smells of horse sweat and kicked up dust, and something metallic that coats the back of your throat. The sun is fully up, illuminating everything. The glinting armor of Persian cavalry, the dark mass of Armenian horsemen bearing down from the northeast, the Cappadocians on their flanks, the Albanian cavalry somewhere to your left trying to get behind you. You can feel the ground through your feet. It is shaking. Parmenion
Steady
rides
your
along
spear,
the line
son.
behind you,
Eyes
his voice
front.
cutting through the noise.
Hold the line!
Measured,
Wait
direct,
for my signal!
not screaming. He has been
Προχωρήστε!
doing this for 40 years.
Επίθεση τώρα!
He knows that panic travels faster than cavalry, and the one thing a commander cannot allow is for his own fear to become his men's fear.
Attack!
The first Persian charge hits the
Charge
front ranks.
now!
The Thessalians absorb it, countercharging as the Armenians close, disrupting their momentum, buying space. For a moment, the line holds. Then the second wave comes, bigger, from a slightly different angle, testing the seam between the Thessalians and the Thracian infantry on their right. Mazaeus does not charge blindly. He
Turn
probes,
hard!
finds the weakest
Attack the
point,
center weak
then
point!
commits his weight there. The seam bends.
Attack!
Parmenion
Don't let
redirects
them
cavalry
through.
to plug
Charge
it.
the gap!
The movement creates a gap somewhere else. He redirects again. The Thessalians rotate through the fighting line. Front ranks falling back
Charge!
as fresh horsemen move up,
For glory!
cycling men through contact to maintain pressure without exhausting any single unit. They are running out of fresh units. The
Charge
Albanian
forward!
cavalry has found
Attack!
the edge of the
Push
formation.
them back!
Not attacking from the front, sweeping around the left end, trying to get behind the line. If they succeed, the left flank becomes an island surrounded on three sides. Parmenion peels off a squadron of Thessalians to intercept them. He cannot spare them. He sends them anyway.
The
Then
line
the
is
news
broken.
arrives through the
They're
dust.
upon us!
Persian cavalry
we have to fall
has broken
back, General.
through the
We
phalanx.
must retreat!
They are behind the lines. Parmenion receives this and does not react, not visibly. He keeps riding, he keeps directing, he keeps managing the
Hold the
rotation,
line!
the countercharges, the gaps. Because if the men on the left flank see their commander panic, they break. And if they break, it does not matter what Alexander is doing on the right. The army folds from the left, and everything collapses. He sends the message to Alexander,
Take this message and
then he keeps fighting. The hours. We do not know exactly how long Parmenion held. What the sources agree on. By the time Alexander turned back from pursuing Darius, the crisis on the left was either resolving or already resolved.
faster!
The
Whip
Persian
horses!
cavalry that broke through had gone
Hurry!
to the camp,
We must escape this
looting
place!
instead of attacking. Mazaeus' assault had absorbed enormous casualties without achieving the encirclement he needed. The left had held, not through a brilliant countermove, not a tactical innovation. Parmenion had taken what Mazaeus threw at him and refused to let his formation collapse. When Alexander arrived, the battle was effectively over. Mazaeus would later surrender Babylon without a fight, an act that earned him the governorship of Babylon under Alexander. The man who had failed to break the Macedonian left, rewarded by the man whose left he had failed to break. That night, Alexander celebrated. Parmenion is not mentioned. The Persian Empire fractured at Gaugamela and spent the next years being dismantled. Babylon fell, Susa fell, Persepolis fell. Darius, fleeing eastward, was murdered by his own Bactrian satrap Bessus, who declared himself king and tried to continue the resistance. Through all of it,
Move the third
Parmenion
cohort to the
continued
left
command
flank by dawn.
at Babylon. in
Ensure the
Media,
supply lines...
managing supply lines, the treasury, the reinforcements from Macedonia. Too valuable to discard, too experienced to replace. But the relationship had changed, and kept changing the further east Alexander went. Parmenion's network ran through the army like a root system. His son Philotas commanded the companion cavalry. His son Nicanor commanded the hypaspists. His son-in-law Conus commanded a phalanx battalion. The further east Alexander went, the more that network felt less like a support structure and more like a constraint. In 330 BC, in the region of Drangiana, modern-day Afghanistan, the crisis came. A man named Dimnus was accused of plotting to assassinate Alexander. In the investigation that followed, Philotas, Parmenion's son, commander of the companions, was found to have known about a conspiracy and failed to report it. Whether he was actually involved or simply dismissed the accusation as unreliable, ancient sources disagree. What is not disputed is the outcome. Here is what history did with Parmenion. The ancient sources, Arrian, Plutarch, Diodorus, Curtius, drew on accounts originating with Alexander's own court historians, men whose survival depended on presenting the king favorably. In their telling, Parmenion becomes a figure of contrast, the cautious, timid, earthbound old general against whom Alexander's genius shines more brightly. Plutarch's account specifically calls his conduct at Gaugamela sluggish and ineffectual.
According to the third
2,000 years
volume,
of
the
readers
ritual must be
absorb
performed
that
at dawn.
framing. But
Wait,
the framing
this scroll
contains a
contradicts that
buried
finding.
assumption
We must
that
cross-reference the
collapses the
archives
moment you
immediately.
examine it. That Alexander could have won without the left holding. He could not. If Parmenion's Thessalians had broken under Mazaeus' assault, the Persian cavalry would have swept behind the Macedonian center and taken the phalanx in the rear. Alexander's charge through the gap would have ended with him turning around to find his army destroyed. No pursuit of Darius, no Babylon, no conquest of Persia. Alexander's entire victory stands on a foundation Parmenion built and maintained, under fire, alone, and then received no credit for. This is what Alexander understood. It is why Parmenion had to die. Not because of Philotas, not because of any plot, because Parmenion alive was a problem that got worse the larger the empire became. He was the man who knew. He knew what the battles looked like from the left. He knew how many times Alexander's plans required someone else to hold so that Alexander could strike. He knew the real cost in Thessalian cavalrymen, in unnamed soldiers on the wrong side of the field. that Alexander's glory was built on. A man who knows that much, who commands that much loyalty, who controls the supply lines and the treasury, such a man is not a subordinate. He is a threat, not because of anything he has done, because of what he represents. The possibility that Alexander's story has another version. History needed Parmenion to be the villain, because if Parmenion was what Philip II said he was, the only general truly worth trusting, then Alexander's genius looks different, more dependent, less singular. And Alexander's legacy, above all things, required singularity. So they buried him, not just in the desert outside Ecbatana, in the historical record, in the framing of every source written under Macedonian patronage, in every retelling by historians who took those sources at face value. Two things can be true at once. Alexander was genuinely brilliant, and Parmenion made that brilliance possible. The tragedy is that the first truth consumed the second, not by accident, but by design. The left flank is always invisible, in history as in battle, but without it, nothing holds. Parmenion held the left at Gaugamela. He held it at Issus. He held it at Granicus. He held it for 6 years across 3 continents. He held it until he was 70 years old and no longer needed. History called him a coward for asking for help once. That is the kind of story this channel exists to find. Not the generals with the statues, the ones buried under someone else's legend.